Welcome to the Jaybefaunt channel. I am your host, James Fauntleroy. So good to see all of you guys on this beautiful Tuesday. Wow, November 18th, 2025. We are live. So good to have all of you guys back. The Jaybefaunt channel is also part of Revolutionary Blackout Network, so you can find me there for Sundays for the JB Show and Thursdays for the Savvy and JB Show. And you can find me here every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And look, guys, it is so good to be back with all of you. We got a very full week of news to get into. There's a lot going on, so we will be getting into that. But if you guys have not already, please go ahead and give a like to the stream. This helps me out very much to be able to reach more people so we can encourage, activate, and organize. So thank you very much for that there. Also, if you guys have not, you guys can subscribe to my Substack at jaybefaunt.substack.com. Gives you email notifications whenever I go live, upload clips, or write any articles. Also, if you guys like to ask me any questions and get a video response, or would like for me to video react to any videos that you may find interesting, you guys can do that through QBounty at qbounty.com/Jaybefaunt. So you guys have that there. So with that being said, good to have you all. A blanket hello to everybody. Also, I will be having a big special announcement later in the show today. You better stay tuned for it because it's something I'm very excited about, and we are embarking on a new journey. So I cannot wait to get into that. But first, let's get into the topics we're going to be talking about today. And yes, I do have a very, very special guest. She's fabulous. We'll get into that in a second. But first, here's the thumbnail. We're going to be talking about later about increasing homelessness. What in the world is going on? What did the Trump administration just do that is going to increase homelessness by over 170,000? So we're going to be getting into that a little bit later in the show. Then we're also going to be talking about ICE equals slave catchers. Yes, we know that slavery still exists in this country, but it's also not just being applied to citizens, but also the undocumented immigrants. But first, we're going to be talking about what is happening in Palestine, particularly in Gaza. And this is why we're talking about a new occupier, but the same oppressor. And we'll be talking about what this UN vote has done and why it is so terrible. And of course, we will be talking about this with Zeynab Day, will be joining me for the U.S. occupation in Gaza. So host, political activist, organizer, and commentator, also host with Status Coup News. We have Zeynab Day joining. So good to have you finally on the channel.
Hey, JB. Thanks so much for having me. I'm glad to be here, even though what we're talking about is depressing as usual. It's really glad to see you. I'm really glad to see you.
Yeah, it's great to see you too. There's been a lot going on, especially within the last 2 years. Of course, we know that what's been going on in Gaza has been happening for the last, 76, 77 years. And so it's been an ongoing tragedy. As a Palestinian activist that I had on a few weeks ago has said that what happened on October 7th of 2023 was just an escalation of a genocide that has been going on for over 75 years. So yeah, that's what we've been seeing so far.
Absolutely. I mean, I tell people all the time in 2023, before Oct 7, I had covered 425 people being bombed in Gaza alone that year, including 12 children in a school that were targeted. This was before Oct 7. And, there was an article that came out in Vice in 2021. Why is the world ignoring the bombs in Gaza?
Mm-hmm.
So to pretend like it started on that day, like the world tends to do, is the ultimate gaslighting.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to share this here. This article that recently came out of antiwar.com. It was written by David DeCamp at antiwar.com. Great journalist as well. I just want to give a shout out to him for this article, but he actually talks about what just recently happened with the UN Security Council. So here we go. We're going to jump right into it. So let me actually enlarge this just a little bit bigger so that everybody can really see it well. It says UN Security Council adopts resolution placing Gaza under control of US-led board. The blurb says Hamas rejected a resolution and said any international force that tries to disarm the group will become a party to the conflict. So I'll just read the first two paragraphs. It says the UN Security Council on Monday adopted a U.S. proposed resolution that places Gaza under control of the U.S. body dubbed the Board of Peace for at least 2 years and authorizes the deployment of an international force to the Palestinian territory that will operate under the watch of the U.S. military. The 15-member Security Council passed a resolution with 13 voting in favor and none voting against. Russia and China abstained from voting, choosing not to use their veto power to stop the resolution. Ahead of the vote, the U.S. ambassador to the UN, Mike Waltz, warned that the vote against the resolution was a return to war. It says the resolution endorses the 20-point U.S.-Israeli Gaza plan released by the White House on September 29th, which it refers to as the comprehensive plan. I just want to get your first initial thoughts about this report so far, Zeynab, because this feels like this is so bad for Israel, so we're going to take it out of the hands of Israel, but we're going to continue the same thing that Israel was doing anyway.
Yeah, it's just more proxy because one of the things that's true is that there were plenty of Blackwater agents. Was it UG strategy? A lot of American contractors were already the ones working the checkpoints. It was Americans former military, already on the checkpoints through this entire apartheid system, working this, making money off this for years. And this feels like an extenuation. It's ridiculous that Trump is ahead of this Board of Peace. I read an article yesterday that sale of land in the West Bank and northern Gaza have now spiked up at synagogues across the United States, because you know how they do sales of land through certain synagogues in the United States through these quote unquote nonprofit organizations. That's increased. So I think all of this is tied together. The land grab that they're doing, the occupation, the money. They're wanting to make sure that these U.S. contracting firms are still the ones that are going to be profiting off this genocide and apartheid. And that's what it feels like to me. It feels like a continuation. I've thought a lot about that yellow line that they're building right down the center of Gaza. It's very reminiscent of when they built the wall around Gaza. They already have a kill zone there, right, JB? They're already shooting children that just approach this mythological line. And the fact that Russia and China abstained instead of using their veto power, I'm very disappointed in. But yeah, there's a lot to unpackage with this, but I'm not shocked by any of it, sadly.
Yeah, that really made me feel some kind of way, especially China, right? China and Russia abstaining from voting. It's like, I get it. You don't want things to continue to escalate, but at the same time, going by international law, which really doesn't really mean much of anything these days,
True.
but going by international law, saying that an occupied people have a right to resist. So therefore, if they have a right to resist, then the United States is continuing this occupation just under a different power, right? They're basically taking the power technically away from Israel, but it's like having a kid that's being abused, that they're adopted by this parent, and they're being abused by a sibling. And it's like, okay, so the sibling is no longer in charge, but the parent is, but the sibling still being able to roam around the house and do whatever they want. And on top of that, the parent is also encouraging the abuse from that sibling.
Right.
What in the world? So my thing is like, Russia and China, like, why don't you use your veto power? Like, yeah, okay, you would have been outvoted, but at least you would have voted, and at least symbolically, it would have meant something.
Yeah, and you've got the Imperial Boomerang because you have Palantir and Anduril and Oracle and these other massive companies that are utilizing the Imperial Boomerang, where they're selling the weaponry that they test out in Gaza and the West Bank to the United States, and then the United States is then going and giving some of this weaponry, some of this drone technology, some of this surveillance equipment to Ukraine. So from Russia's standpoint, it's interesting to just kind of sit still as this is happening when this technology is being directly used in international imperialistic warfare.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's continue on in this article because I really want to get into this as well, this piece too. So it says here, it says the U.S. initially didn't mention the possibility of a Palestinian state in its draft resolution, but added a vague mention of one in response to feedback from Arab states. The resolution states that a path towards Palestinian state may be possible when the Palestinian Authority makes the unspecified reforms. But the Israeli government has been explicit in its opposition to a Palestinian state, and the resolution makes no mention of the Israeli occupied West Bank, where Israel continues to expand illegal Jewish settlements. The resolution authorizes the BOP's control of Gaza until December 31st, 2027, and leaves open the possibility of the Security Council extending its mandate. Over the next 2 years, the BOP is tasked with overseeing a Palestinian technocratic apolitical committee of competent Palestinians from the Strip, which will be responsible for day-to-day operations of Gaza's civil service and administration. My question is, what do they mean by competent Palestinians?
And you know that they mean the PA, that some of the PA members that are willing to bend over backwards for the quote unquote two-state solution rather than actual liberation. They don't want to, the ones that don't want to end the apartheid, but just want a nicer, softer apartheid, which will never exist.
Yeah, it was to me, it feels like, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn to anybody that's Palestinian that is watching. And if I am wrong, please correct me. I apologize. But it feels like the Palestinian Authority, at least some members, are to Palestinians what a Clarence Thomas is to us Black people.
No, I've heard it described that way, so I think you're hitting the nail on the head.
That's what it feels like. So I'm like, what in the world? Like, how am I going to have a Thomas Sowell or a Clarence Thomas speak for the rest of us Black people? You don't speak for us. What in the world are you doing? And the thing is, it's like, why in the world are they more focused? Look, what did Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. say? He said, we need peace, not in the absence of tension, but peace in the presence of justice. So therefore, the reason why the tension is there is because of the illegal occupation that Israel is doing. So if you were to get rid of the illegal occupation, peace will resume. Magic. It is crazy to me how people will sit there and go, well, they've occupied the place for 75 years, so they're not going anywhere. And I'm like, okay, but what about just stopping all the murders and killings, stop the illegal settlements, give them back the land that you stole, and then let Palestinians dictate how things go on the land that they've been occupying for millennia?
Yeah. And it's not such a crazy statement to it's just realistic. It's the same argument that the South Africans made for their own liberation. And we're watching right now what the independence movement at the tip of South Africa that's happening, that's among the white nationalists there, and we're seeing the same energy rising again. And you know why? Part of why they're emboldened, I have no doubt, is because of what's happening with Israel.
Mm-hmm.
It has emboldened apartheidists across the globe, and we're watching the fallout of that in Sudan. We're watching the fallout of that in Congo. We're watching the fallout of that in South Africa right now with our very eyes, because there's no proper pushback on Israel whatsoever. There's no accountability.
Yeah.
And we're watching it right here in the States. And, I know you're about to cover the stuff that's happening here. So,
Yeah. And it gets even worse because everybody's like, okay, so JB, how is that a U.S. occupation? Well, it goes further. David T. Camp goes further in this article. He says the resolution also authorizes Security Council member states, including the United States, working with the BOPs to establish a temporary international stabilization force, the ISF, in Gaza to deploy under unified command acceptable to the BOP. U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, has established a military outpost in the southern Israel to oversee the ISF. And according to Israeli media reports, the U.S. may build a large base on the Gaza border to house international troops. So the United States is going to be occupying Gaza. And this is why I keep telling people, especially if you're young and you getting into the military, get out. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200 because they are going to send you to continue a genocide and ethnic cleansing. And ethnic cleansing doesn't always mean killing. It means wiping the people that are indigenous away from the land that they have that is theirs. And so this is exactly what they're doing. And people are saying, oh, well, this is for peace. But the crazy thing is, it's like, you could say that you're safe if you're behind bars in prison. But does that mean that you're still safe? So it's the same thing. It's like, wait, they're occupied by the United States. Does that make it any better? Look at what we've done. Not we, our government has done for decades upon decades to other nations around the world.
can I add something to that, JB? And I
Sure.
just pulled it up so that I could make sure that I knew who these people were. I keep thinking that this has been the plan all along. And
Mm-hmm.
the reason that I keep thinking this, and I think a lot of people, and I think you'll be here with me on this, is that, do you remember back in just a few months back, time feels like it's really fast, and it also feels like it's really slow, right? This feels like this was like 10 years ago. But do you remember back in July when I believe it was four tech oligarchs were made lieutenant colonels in the U.S. Army Reserve. One of them was Meta Chief Technology Officer Andrew Bosworth, Palantir Chief Technology Officer Shyam Secure, OpenAI Head of Product Kevin Wheel, and Thinking Machines Lab Bob McGrew were just made lieutenants out of nowhere, not military people. These four people were made lieutenants, which takes about 20 to 25 years to really get that title in the military. So that's insane. And I think about them, and I also think about how they said that 200 troops were going to be sent over there. But we know that's not going to stop. If they're building military base, it's not going to stop at 200. There's no way. That the third part of that is that there's this new thing that's happening within the military. Not only is there racism, these new racist policies that are going to push out Black and brown people, there's also now political loyalty test that's starting to happen. So it makes me wonder, and this is just conjecture at this point, but are they going to be politically testing the people that are going over to serve at this military base, for instance, because they don't want another incident where there's an Anthony Aguilar? So, or what happened at Abu Ghraib, where they had whistleblowers. So I think that this has been planned for a long time. And I think that having lieutenants, it's not just Israel that has to do with making lieutenants making these tech oligarchs lieutenants. It has to do with the bigger tech bro, Peter Thiel, Mark Andreessen, Curtis Yarvin stuff that's happening, that creepy stuff. But I also think it has something to do with this. And I believe that they could very well be connected, and that this has been the plan all along, because there's too many indicators that it hasn't been.
Yeah, it's quite interesting though how they want to test the loyalty and devotion to the United States when they are trying to protect a foreign nation.
Right? The irony of that.
Yeah, it's wild to me. It's like explain that. It's weird. But yeah, let's get back into this article. I'm not going to read the entire thing because I want to
Thank
make
you.
sure.
Sorry to take us down like a rabbit hole there, but when you read that we were going to have a military base, I immediately thought of those oligarchs that they made lieutenants.
No, that's actually really pertinent information. I appreciate that. We need to go down a rabbit hole sometimes. I feel like Alice in Wonderland, and it's absolutely necessary. So thank you very much. So it says the ISF is supposed to work with Israel and Egypt on a demilitarization of Gaza. Hang on. Why are we so focused on demilitarizing Gaza when we ain't demilitarized Israel?
Good question.
Like it's like, oh my God, we gotta demilitarize Gaza. Who was the one? I'm sorry, I'm getting black right now. Who was the ones that were dropping bombs on all these people?
Israel. That's your answer.
So wait. So if the people who are, why are we blaming the victims? Why is it that, and I hate to get a little gruesome here, but why is it when someone gets stabbed and then their blood splatters on the assailant's shirt, then you blame the person that got stabbed instead of the assailant that stabbed them? What kind of world do we live? I don't even want to answer that question.
And they're going to have IDF soldiers and U.S. military and contracted post-military for black ops operations running this quote-unquote demilitarized zone. They're going to have military running a demilitarized zone.
Lord.
Demilitarized for who is the question.
Exactly. Okay. It says, but Hamas has repeatedly rejected the idea of disarming without the establishment of a Palestinian state. And countries willing to send troops to Gaza don't want to be involved if it means fighting Hamas on behalf of Israel. In response to the resolution being passed, Hamas said it would consider the ISF a party to the conflict if it were tasked with disarmament. Basically meaning, look, if you try to take our arms away, then you are also the enemy. That's basically what Hamas is saying. That's what.
And they have every right oh, sorry, JB, go ahead.
No, please go ahead, please.
Oh, no, they have every right under international law, according to the body who voted on this, according to the United Nations, they have every right. They are the governing body of Gaza. They have every right to be to self-armament for protection. Every right.
Yeah.
Every right. Like we said, international law is a joke at this point. But under international law, if you were to look at that, they have every right to be armed.
Yeah. Like, it's like if we have all these mass shootings, right? It's like, okay. How many people would freak out if the government said, okay, we're going to take everybody's guns away?
I live in Kentucky. I mean, so it wouldn't go over well here at all.
Sis, I'm in Florida.
I know, right?
I like to see them try.
Right,
so,
right.
My thing is, like, both you and I both technically live in red states, and so that thought is crazy in our minds, and yet we're going to apply that to a completely different country of different people who are literally trying to defend their land. We will sit here in our ivory towers and talk about and praise the American revolutionaries and go, oh my God, they fought against British tyranny. But when it comes to Israeli tyranny, they don't say a word.
Yep.
The contradiction.
Especially the leaders, because I will say I've been kind of shocked at the polling and everything that's come out, it's given me a little bit of confidence that maybe we can actually fight revolutionary fights in this country, because 80% of the country wants to disarm Israel. 70 to 80% believe in a Palestinian state, and it's something like 60% now support Hamas defending themselves.
Yeah.
So like the representatives and the people are in a completely different are completely different on this issue.
Yeah, that's massive, Zeynab. That's it's an 80-20 issue.
Mm-hmm.
That's a layup right there.
Yep.
No wonder
And
why.
that's why Thomas Massey right now is a household name. I'm gonna tell you.
Marjorie
That's
Taylor Greene
why
is now
Marjorie
getting
Taylor
flagged
Greene is a
too.
household name. I know, right? But it is true. It's true.
I mean, she's right about some things. You know, I disagree with her on a whole host of stuff, but
Me too. Same with Thomas Massey. But
yeah,
I believe he is out of everyone in Congress, and now Rashida Tlaib, I believe, actually believes what she says. Thomas Massey, I believe, believes what he says. He's authentic. He really isn't bought and sold. And there's very few politicians that are like that. And I disagree with him on a whole hell of a lot. Don't get me wrong. But
yeah. My goodness. So I'll finish off with this one because I want to make sure people actually read the article. But this part says Hamas has said this, assigning the international force with tasks and roles inside the Gaza Strip, including disarming the resistance, strips it of its neutrality and turns it into a party to the conflict in favor of the occupation. Says the group said that the resolution fails to meet Palestinians' rights and demands and seeks to impose an international trusteeship on the enclave that Palestinians and resistance factions oppose. So essentially, they're saying this is up to us. You cannot take our sovereignty away and be paternalistic and go, well, we just got to separate you two because you guys are fighting. It's like, no. Number one, the Palestinians are actually fighting for the liberation of themselves and their people. And it concludes all Palestinian resistance. They are literally resisting. And so this just isn't some bickering or fighting. It's literally life or death for them because they're literally fighting for their will to survive and stay on their land. So why is our government trying to act like both sides are equally horrible and is treating it as if this is a both sides issue?
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Doesn't
And
make
that's
sense.
what they've done forever. I'm right now I'm working on an article, JB, and it's about Helen Thomas. One of my friends reminded me about her. I hadn't thought about her in a few
Yeah.
years, and I am going to be giving her flowers in this article, because like she was someone when I was in journalism school that I really looked up to and admired. But
Mhm.
at like almost 90 years old, they removed all of her accreditations.
I
They
remember.
removed She was a Society Professional Journalist, had the Lifetime Achievement Award named after her. They removed her name from that. She had covered 6 presidencies. She asked Obama about whether or not Israel had nuclear weapons in a roundabout way, but she asked him about that, and that put her on a pariah list. And then a rabbi had walked up to her trying to catch her off guard one day and was like, what under, if you believe that Palestinians should have a self-determined state and that the land belongs to them, where do the Israelis go? And she said, they can go back to Germany. They can go back to where they came from. And oh my
Right.
gosh, it caused her to be completely blacklisted, because this was in the late
Yeah.
2010s, and she lost everything. But she died holding to her principles. And I read like 14 quotes from her, and she was just a badass. She was one of the last true journalists that were out there. But she had
Yeah.
seen this pattern over and over and over again to where she had just had it. She had just
Yep.
had it. She's like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to play this game anymore. This is what it is.
Yep.
And I respect her madly for that. And because she spoke up at a time when that speaking up like that caused what happened to happen. But her legacy needs to be remembered and brought back to light because there's lessons from that.
Yeah.
But the fact that she had already covered 4 of these types of peace deals in her time, peace deals, 4 of them, and this was her response because of all the time she had seen it fail. So we're repeating old patterns, the same pattern, and that pattern is dehumanization and infantilization of Palestinians while acting like it's complicated when it's not, so that Israel can further expand. That's it. It's as basic as that. There's a lot more to it as far as profiteering and the military industrial complex and imperialism, but when it gets right down to it, it's as simple as that. To answer your question, that's what they're doing, JB. Infantilization. So that the Palestinian people need to be disarmed. The Palestinian people, but then somehow it's equal, even though they don't have air, they don't have a navy, they don't have an air force, they don't have the backing of an imperialist country like the United States. They don't have any of that. How is it an equal occupation? How is it an equal? Is there any equal footing between the two? There's just not. That's a fallacy.
No. In fact, I was going to imitate her because she's such a spitfire, but it's better to hear her in her own words. I got to play this. And look, Fox News, they were like, oh my God, I can't believe she split it. Let me share this. Helen Thomas was a real one. Let's go.
Any comments on Israel? We're asking everybody today. Any comments
Tell them
on
to
Israel?
get the hell out of Palestine.
Ooh. Any better comments?
Remember, these people are occupied, and it's their land, not German, it's not Poland.
So where should they go? What should they do?
They go home.
Where's the home?
Poland.
So the Jews,
Germany.
You think Jews go back to Poland and Germany?
And America and everywhere else.
Spoken with.
Woo!
Love her. Remember, they're occupied. This was back in 2014, I believe.
No, longer than that, because that video is 15 years old.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
I had the date. I'm bad with numbers.
2009-ish. Yeah.
Oh, you're right. 2009. 2009.
Yeah, I think it was 2009 because that was basically the beginning of the Obama administration. That's how long ago it was. Man.
And they were mad because she asked Obama, basically, do they have nuclear weapons? So that's why that rabbi showed up to question her, is because she was like, why, if there's supposed to be proliferation in the Middle East, why does only one country have the right to armament, essentially?
Yeah. I mean, look, Helen Thomas was cooking right there.
I'm so glad you found that clip, JB.
Yeah, I was just like, wait. I remember that. Pepper's Farm remembers. But, in line with this, one of the things that I want to share as well is that there's a pro-Palestinian group in my city here in Orlando that actually put out a statement that I want to read as well. And so this is from one of the members was actually on my channel a couple weeks back. It was Russia. And this is from the Florida Palestine Network. It says UN passes resolution for an American occupation of Gaza. Hands off Gaza, we must recommit to the fight for Palestinian liberation. It says the UN just passed resolution 13-0 that will secure American occupation of Gaza, Palestine. We firmly reject this rabid uptake in imperial violence. Join us as we recommit to the Palestinian liberation struggle, continue to fight for the self-determination of the Palestinian people. Demand an arms embargo, the end of the siege and genocide against Gaza, and demand an end to this occupation from the river to the sea. Participate in the call for global strike for Gaza every Thursday. Boycott Zionist brands in accordance with BDS. get involved with revolutionary anti-imperialist organization like the Florida Palestine Network. And so this is what needs to happen, right? Because ultimately what the United States is continuing to do is they're just basically doing Israel's work for them now. I'm going to share this too, because this actually makes it a little bit easier. Let me see if I can find it. Here we go.
Which means more of, for those, and I think I'm glad to see that a lot of people actually do care about other human beings' lives. That makes me feel a little bit more confidence. But this is also, and I don't like making this argument much because it feels dehumanizing. But the truth is that this is also more federal funds, a lot more federal funds going to this occupation directly. So when you go to work, you pay your taxes, those federal funds, and I know people get mad at me when I say this, but there is some facts that there are part of what we pay in that goes toward federal funds. Those federal funds are being used now after this resolution to directly, not even just indirectly, which we had already been directly supporting Israel, but now to occupying the literal land with boots on the ground.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I want to share this. This is an app that I have on my phone. It's called No Thanks, right? I know it's backwards, but it's called No Thanks. And this app, I am not, being paid to share this. This is me of my own accord. I'm not being endorsed. I'm not endorsing. I'm not endorsing. I'm not being endorsed or anything like that. This is just me off the cuff sharing this app. But this app actually, you can get this on the App Store or the Google Play Store, but it actually scans items that are on your shelves at your stores and then gives you the information of whether they are tied to Israel or not. And so, of course, there may be some items where they may have ingredients that may have come from Israel. So it might be kind of questionable, but if you're trying to make sure to boycott, there's apps like this. I think there's a couple more apps as well that show like different products that are actually directly from Israel. This is why I don't eat Sabra hummus anymore. I stay away from that hummus. I don't eat Oikos yogurt anymore because they are also tied to Israel. So, and stay away from, there's certain, like, I don't really eat fast food like that anymore. Thank God. But there's brands like Pizza Hut, McDonald's, Starbucks. I think Wendy's and Burger King are also tied to Israel. Like all these different brands are tied to Israel too. So, if anything, we'll just be eating healthier. So
yeah. And hummus is really good to make yourself. If anyone wants a good recipe, message me on Twitter. I'll give it to you.
Don't get me started because I will be bothering you for that hummus recipe. I'll be adding a little bit extra garlic too. That roasted garlic hummus.
Oh, roasted garlic is how I make it. I make it it's more of an Iranian style, but it's good.
Nice. And so the Palestinian resistance really has a right to say no to what happens on their land, right? Let me ask you this. Who are we to dictate to other people what happens on their land, especially when they're the occupied ones? Like, isn't this just a chamber pot calling the toilet white when it comes to the United States?
Yep. And I will say to MAGA out there, if anyone happens to be watching that's MAGA, if you thought that Trump was anti-war, he was going to close down all these military bases, didn't he run on that? Closing down military bases, getting us out of the Middle East, like ending these wars of choice. And now he's going to be putting a boots on the ground, not to mention what he's doing in the seas off Venezuela, blowing up ships every day of people that aren't even getting trial, just extrajudicial killings. But now we're looking at boots on the ground in Gaza, literally directly occupying Gaza. It's pretty much the opposite of what he ran on, right? I mean, directly flies in the face of what he promised you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, for anybody who sits and thinks that Trump is anything outside of anti-war, I got a big, beautiful diamond encrusted bridge over an active volcano to sell you. Like, why are we believing politicians, any one of them? It doesn't make any sense for us to believe them. Because ultimately, once you start to believe a politician, it's like, I hear what you say. It's like, I see what you do more than I hear what you say. It should be that way. That's what I honestly think it should be. And I'm sick and tired of seeing everybody, even people who consider themselves to be conservative, to believe the okie doke, to go along with the okie doke when it comes to whatever these politicians say. Hell, like, for instance, even though Marjorie Taylor Greene is coming correct on some issues, rhetoric is one thing, actions are another.
Yeah.
Right? Because she could just be a right-wing version of AOC.
I think that's pretty accurate, actually.
So why are, this is why I think it's important for us to really, do our own actions on the ground. And that's mutual aid, building dual power, and making sure that we build solidarity among each other as workers. Because in the end of the day, politicians, I don't know. You make the judgment yourself, but I don't think that they are there for us. You get the final word.
Workers are starting to, when it comes to boycotts, I think that's really important to be able to do this. But it's just important to talk to your neighbors and to. But at some point, when it's an 80-20 issue, and they're still not listening. I'm not saying what needs to happen next, but clearly electoral isn't enough. Clearly begging them to listen is enough. Clearly moving sentiment isn't enough, because it's not a matter of people don't, that we haven't convinced enough people to where then the politicians would care. Convincing people so that politicians would care, we would already have Medicare for all if that were the damn case. That's been popular for 25, 30 years. That's how Obama got elected. He promised universal health care. So did Bill Clinton. So, like, if it was a matter of, if it's popular enough, these representatives are going to listen, that's just bullshit. It's already Israel is already a pariah for the average American citizen. That is the point. That is where we're at. So in a way, our organizing succeeded. We are successful, guys. Medicare for all is a household name. This is Israel, the issues with Israel, everyone now knows. Most people, the majority of people now know, and they're sick of it and they're done with it. So what's next? So that's where I'm at. I'm kind of like, okay, what's next? I think the economic push is important, and I think that's going to have an impact. Then what? And I'm not going to prescribe what it should be here on YouTube. All that I'm saying is electoral's not enough. And if you think that these politicians aren't moving because we're isolated and it's a myopic issue and nobody's paying attention, that's just not true. That Kamala lost her election. It's now showing Kamala lost her election because of Gaza and Palestine, because of how she walked with that, because of saying a more lethal military, because of her militarization and her war hawking. So I don't know, man. I don't know what's going to happen in 2026. I don't know. I feel like there's going to be some people that are going to come out there and pretend to be and then still vote for the Iron Dome. I see that happening. I foresee that happening. But we're going to have to figure out new and inventive ways to organize across the board. One, they're defanging workers and replacing us with AI. So we're losing even that edge, and they're doing it on purpose. Two, the majority caring about something doesn't matter. We already care. We're already there. People are already with us. So just something to think about. What's next, JB? And I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. It's just, that's just where we are.
Yeah.
And
Well,
the
you're being
UN
real.
just ignored the entire world, JB. The UN just ignored the entire world, the entire global south, the entire world. The United Nations just ignored them. So we're not alone in that, where these oligarchs are ignoring us.
Let me ask you this one more, because this conversation is that good. But is there still a use for the United Nations anymore?
I would like to say yes, because I do think that there's something about global solidarity, something about I'm not a nationalist in the, I believe that like this stringent borders, I believe that we're a global community. I believe that. I'm of course against imperialism and colonialism, but I see those two things as different. It can be different, right?
Yeah.
They haven't done their job. They put out reports. They will put out good reports sometimes. Somebody like a Francesca Albanese may do extraordinary work exposing things. But when it comes to actually effing doing something about the actual issue, they drop the ball on that every single time.
Yeah.
And having the UN Special Council or the UN Special Committee being able to veto an entire policy like the United States has been able to do renders the United Nations moot, because it means that all other countries are essentially voiceless as opposed to these 7 that are on that council.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that analysis. Zeynab,
What do you think?
wonderful.
Do you agree or?
Well, you know what? I feel like the United Nations is really just a cover for U.S. hegemony to continue while giving it a face of global unity.
Yep, that's it. That's a great way to put it.
That's basically it. It's basically the United Nations is an international version of being at a work at your job, and they go, "We're all a family."
We're going to cut your pay by 20%, but we ordered you pizza.
Yep. Pizza party, only one per person though.
Only one slice per
One slice.
That's
and
accurate.
then they use 16 slices instead of the 8 slices. Just like they used to do back in elementary school.
Oh man, school pizza.
Yep.
Maybe just remembered it. Man.
Yeah, I know. Just like the Scholastic Book Fairs. But anyways, what I couldn't afford.
I know, right?
But Zeynab, please let them know where they can find you, what you have coming up, all the projects you got going on. Please let us know.
So I do have an article coming out, and I'll tell you guys where to find it, but I have an article coming out on Helen Thomas. I just did an article on 2 different things that I think you guys would find interesting. One is on this organization called Middle Seat, and they are a consulting firm, and they made more than $134 million. Their former Bernie Sanders staffers, their last candidate that they made $18 million off of, they made $8.9 million off AOC. Their last candidate that they made $18.9 million off of was Fetterman. They took the Bernie aesthetic and they give it to people like John Fetterman, Beto O'Rourke. They're the ones that made Beto O'Rourke look leftist. J Street is one of their PACs, Working Families Party. So they're like behind a lot of this. Let's take the energy from these leftist movements and sheep herd them back into the Democratic Party. Middle Seat, $134 million is how much they've racked in.
Reminds me of some channels. But
and then the other one, 50 states, it's about the abandonment of the 50-state strategy. So states like Kentucky, Georgia, other states used to be heavily blue. Those state parties were defunded after Howard Dean. 75% of seats went uncontested the last election cycle. So it's not that these states are red, it's that there's no one to vote 4. Only one choice on the ballot, up and down the ballot. So, and then the Democrats will prevent people from running when they step up to run if they're anything progressive. They would rather the Republicans have it. And I wrote a whole article about this. So a lot of these states aren't red. There's just no one running. Uncontested seats. They're just handing it off to the GOP on a silver platter. So yeah, you guys go check that out. Check out my Helen Thomas article. And I've got one with a breakdown of all of Trump's executive orders that are leading us, that are tied to the tech oligarchy. So that's fun and completely dystopian and didn't give me nightmares. But you can find me on Bullhorn Bulletin, Substack, or you can look up my name, Zeynab Day. Either way, I think I'll take you to my stuff. And I'm so grateful to talk to you today, JB. I always love talking to you. I love your work. So if anyone's here watching me, please follow and subscribe to JB as well. He does amazing work. I don't often get to catch him live, but I will watch, love to watch before I go to bed sometimes JB shows. Tons of information. Please follow him. And I'm so excited that I got to speak to you today, even though it was a very frustrating and infuriating topic. It was really good to sit down with you.
Always good to sit down with you. Thank you so very much to be here to elevate the conversation. Miss Zeynab Day, everybody. Thank you so very much.
Bye, JB.
All right, take care. Bye-bye. All right, guys. Thank you so very much for staying for that. That was a wonderful conversation. And look, there's a lot going on, especially in regards to Palestine. This is why we keep talking about it, because this also is part and parcel of what the United States and the West is doing in its imperialist project. This affects and it is connected to all the rest of the imperialist projects that the United States is doing. And also the hand of the West, as you see in Sudan and in Congo, Haiti, as many other countries that the United States has its hand in. What's going on? What are each countries trying to do in Venezuela? So keep an eye on what's going on. And this wheel of imperialism needs to be broken. And we cannot allow this to continue, because our fellow humans on the other side of the world are suffering because of what our government is doing. Let's go ahead and do the damn thing and like the stream. Thank you so very much to everybody. Let's get into the comments. And so we're going to be going straight into, let me check to see if we have any Rumble rants. Let's see there. And then we will go into the Kick chat as well. Whoop. I can hear myself. All right, there we go. So I quiet down there. All right, looks like we're good on the Rumble side. All right, very happy for that. Also, let's go into the Kick side to see what's going on over here. Let me see. So we're good on Kick, but if any of you guys would like to also subscribe to my Kick channel or my Rumble channel, you guys can also find those on my link tree as well. That is in the description down below. So thank you very much to everybody for that too. So while we're at it, we are going to also give, let me see, shout out to patrons on Patreon, and then we'll get into the rest of the comments here. So while we're at it, let's do the damn thing and give a shout out to the patrons on Patreon. For without you guys, this channel would not exist. And so I would like to see about getting into the tiers. Wait, hang on. Where are you at? Hang on. All right, hang on. Oh, that's probably why. All right, JB, we got things going on. Let me see. In the world, why isn't it? There we go. Okay. All right, here are the tiers for the patrons on Patreon. Thank you so very much. We got Mega Jaybefaunters, Super Duper Jaybefaunters, Super Jaybefaunters. We have Jaybefaunters. We have Comrade, Solidarity, and JB members. And thank you so very much to all new members. Without you guys, I would not be able to have this channel, and it means the most to me. Also, just let you guys know, my channel is also demonetized. So if you like to support the channel, you can support it via Patreon or PayPal. So you got that there. Let's get into the rest of the comments here. So let's go in. Thank you I can't talk today. Thank you so very much. Zeynab Day says, hey guys, going to finish watching. Love JB. He's the best. Oh, so were you. Thank you very much. You are too kind. Too kind. Thank you so very much. Let's get into here and say our salutations to everybody. We got Edward coming in saying, what's up, JB? What's up, Edward? Good to see you. Crom coming in saying, JB, when you get a minute, check out EJ Jones Gas Station Love. I don't know. For some reason now, it makes me think about the love bugs. If you're in Florida, if you know, you know. But the love bugs, and I remember a friend back in the day, because love bugs will always be at the gas stations, right? And she said that all these love bugs are doing is sniffing gas and making love. I miss her. But yes, they be sniffing gas and making love. My goodness. Oh, my gosh. I miss her sense of humor. Zero says, hold up. Wait a minute. The United Nations that previously expressed so much support for Palestine voted to what? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. We have Edward says the UN occupying Gaza just shows that the Palestinians lost their own country. It's so sad. Holly says, hi, JB. Good to see you, Holly. We have Terrence. Good to see you. He says, hi, JB and Zaynab. All right. We got Terrence up in the chat. Fire Rippo, sorry, says, yes, Zeynab, been praying for you and your family. Thank you so very much. I know, Zero. Damn it, China. Yeah, that's something I'm just like, I need to get somebody who's really good on China to come on to talk about it. I would love to get Li Jingjing, Carl Jia, or Danny Haifong. Or I can get Jason Smith too. But I would really like to get one of those to come on to talk about, like, what's the reasoning behind China abstaining. I would like to get that also from Russia too, but China and Russia both abstaining from voting instead of voting against it. Like, what's the reasoning behind that? I need to know. Ever says China and Russia could have spoke out and not abstained their votes. Exactly. That's what I've been trying to say. Like, what in the world? What's going on, guys? Supposed to be, against colonialism. This is basically colonialism by use of, an international governing body, right? All right. So, All One Same says, peace. Good to see you, All One Same. Holly Horn says, Zaynab, it won't be televised. Talking about the revolution. The revolution won't be televised, but it will be live. Kat says the UN has failed the Palestinians repeatedly. And the thing is, like, is it failure if it's intentional? I feel like it's intentional, right? Jacqueline says the U.S. veto should be banned. No nation should have more of a say in the UN than the rest of the nations. I agree. See, Abdan says, if you suddenly look crazy in public without realizing it, it will be very embarrassing. What are you talking about? If you suddenly look crazy in public. I don't know what that means. Anyway, let's continue on. Let me see. Thank you so very much to Jimmy on Twitter. Says Jimmy reposted the stream. Appreciate it. Kimi says thank you, Zeynab. I saw a comment that I wanted to highlight. Wait, I have to go way up higher. Hang on. And then we will move on. me see. Yeah, Holly said Ben Gvir called for the assassination of Palestinian Authority and Abbas. Yeah. It is crazy right now. Oh, Chris C says, "Hey, JB's and Evan, everyone else, happy Tuesday, all." Thank you so very much. All right, so and then Terry Connolly says, "Perfect Victims and the Politics of Appeal" by Mohammed El Kurd. Absolutely. We've been going over that through the Samud School. Not the Samud School. The Florida Palestine Network has been going over that through the book club as well. All right. So Human Rights for All, do this last one. How I felt about this after watching for 2 years. Aaron Bushnell couldn't take a year of it. Yeah. Aaron Bushnell, he saw 1 year of this and he sacrificed himself. So that's how bad it is. And good to see a CBC voter. All right, guys, let's get into the next topic that we're going to be discussing today. So, of course, me and Zeynab had a great conversation and talked about really a new occupier that is the United States in Gaza. So now we're going to be going into the next one about ICE equals slave catchers. And so we're going into this right here. Immigrant slaves. So buckle your seatbelts, y'all. This one is about to get even more intense. And it's pretty sickening. Let me make sure I have this here. Okay. Slavery. It is the hallmark of the United States. It is something that has been a stain on this country since its inception. Even before its inception, we have experienced things like chattel slavery, particularly of my people. And so as we continuously see in the existence of this country that slavery, even though people say it's gone, it just changes its shape, but the fundamentals of it remain the same. So we see this with another group that is happening today. Might remind you of the 13th Amendment of the United States. This is out of the Constitution. 13th Amendment says, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for a crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. And it says Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. That exception is what makes this country so egregious. Except as punishment for a crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. While this is continuing to happen to U.S. citizens, because within our country, even though we are only about 5% of the world's population, we have over 25% of prisoners in the world in this country. And that is because slavery saves you money. And you can keep making more money. And that is the sick reality that we live in. But in order to bring in more slaves, you have to import more. Well, this is what we're getting into right now. What if the slaves self-imported, not deported, imported? And this is exactly what the United States is doing as we speak. And so I want to get into this article because they're literally doing slavery against undocumented immigrants in this country. I'm going to just give a shout out to Roger Meadows for this story. This story is a very powerful one. Thank you very much for this, Roger. I appreciate you bringing this across my view. So it says the case that could rein in private prison abuses or turn them loose. So this is from a few days ago. It says that a for-profit immigrant prison in Colorado, prisoners say that they were threatened with solitary confinement if they refused to work as unpaid janitors, cleaning common areas of the facility for free, rather than hiring and paying regular employees to do the work. The company allegedly boosted its profits by making the immigrants do it instead. Quote, "We are not slaves, we are detainees, and we should not be forced to clean. That's wrong," end quote. That was from Alejandro Menocal, an immigrant who was held in the Aurora, Colorado facility that is now suing the prison company, testified in a deposition. So, we are not slaves, we are detainees. We should not be forced to clean. That is wrong. And so, this is what's going on in our country now. And it says, rather than hiring and paying regular employees to do the work, the company allegedly boosted its profits by making the immigrants do it instead. I'm going to say this. For all the people who have said, if we deport all the illegals, that's going to be jobs for the rest of us. Where are the jobs to clean the detention facilities? Where are the jobs for that? No, they're forcing the detainees to do it. Right? And as long as they continuously have detainees coming in, because people will keep coming across the border to look for refuge or for economic stability because of what the United States does to their own nations, of course, they're pouring in constantly. And instead of our nation going after the business owners and the capitalists and the robber barons that continuously exploit the people that are coming across our southern border, instead they decide to let them get off scot-free. If I have a flood in my home, what is the first thing you should do? Well, you shut off the valve. You shut off the valve, and then you get the water out, right? Or you find a way to mitigate to get the water out. But they're not interested in shutting off the valve. And what is the valve in the United States that's causing the water to come in? Well, the valves would be U.S. foreign policy that destabilizes other countries south of us, in particular, that causes people to flee their own countries because of economic instability, as well as these countries also being subject to vicious sanctions and blockades and embargoes, which make living extremely difficult in these countries. All because the corporations at the top want the resources of these nations. And so selfishly, they'll do that. They're going to get the resources one way or another. Either they're going to get the resources by going into these countries and actually having a puppet government, or they're going to put sanctions on these countries. And then people are also resources, and those resources are going to flee and come through our southern border undocumented. And then they're going to use their labor for free in order to make more money. And so it's never about getting rid of the people who are undocumented so that, you know, the workers here can actually have a better standard of living and we can actually make the money. It was never about that. It's about a division of the working class to keep us separated from them so that, and then they'll get some semblance of a benefit that they won't give to us, to our citizens, and then it creates resentment between us both. And that resentment grows into hate and even xenophobia and white supremacy. And then we will blame the ones who are documented, who may display semblance of white supremacy, and then we'll think that's indicative of all the immigrants, including the ones who are undocumented, and think, oh, well, they have anti-blackness. They are white supremacists in their nature. So therefore, we shouldn't have any solidarity with them. And then guess what? We start to also copy the same white supremacist point by being xenophobic to them while they're trying to flee because of white supremacy is doing to their nation. And so now you got two conflicting people who are blinded, who don't know that they are really in the same boat. And the same boot that's on their neck is the same boot that's on our neck. The same boot that is on their neck is also on our neck. And we're sitting here arguing with our heads on the ground, with the boot on our neck, and we're arguing with each other instead of saying, hey, let's get this boot off our neck. And either side does not want to stop the arguing and get up. And the person who has the boot on our neck, they're counting on us arguing with each other. They're counting on us hating each other. They're counting on immigrants being anti-Black. And they're counting on those of us who are marginalized within this country to be xenophobic so that we stay divided. And so this works into their plan and to continue, oh, we're going to institute slavery on these people now because guess what? It's cheaper than hiring these Americans. Let's get in. Let's get in. All right, folks. It says across the country, for-profit prison companies are facing similar lawsuits alleging that they violate the federal law banning forced labor as well as state minimum wage laws by coercing immigrant prisoners to work either for free or just $1 a day. Now the companies that run Colorado prison, the Geo Group, is asking the Supreme Court for help. It says it needs immunity from lawsuits like Minocal's, such as the government enjoys sovereign, much as the government enjoys sovereign immunity from some suits. Geo believes it is similarly entitled to immunity as a government contractor. Bullshit. Don't deserve no damn immunity. You're not a government. Anyways, if the company does not have protection from these lawsuits, Geo argues opponents of the Trump administration's immigration policies could wage a proxy war against it. Lawsuits against private prison operators could discourage companies from helping Trump carry out his policies, amounting to judicial government works of democracy. The Supreme Court will hear oral argument on the case in Geo Group versus Minocal on Monday, which was yesterday. Lined up against Geo are some unusual allies, including major public sector union, the conservative think tank Cato Institute, and the good government group Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, and the Trump administration itself, which argues that private prison companies may deserve immunity, but this case isn't the right way to give it to them. The Supreme Court's decision could not only determine whether the immigrant prisoners will ever get their day in court, it could make it harder for anyone to sue government contractors, creating a category of companies that opponents fear would be above the law. Can you imagine working for a company that is being contracted by the government and they abuse you and you can't sue them for them doing you wrong? Here you have a group that is literally doing slavery, and they're trying to argue in court that they should be immune from any type of prosecution. Remember what I said about the 13th Amendment? Slavery is still legal in the United States. And people act surprised when they find this out. But the problem is that it is baked within the DNA of the United States. Let's continue on. The case against Geo Group stretches back more than a decade, when a group of immigrants who had been locked up at the company's Aurora facility claimed that Geo's requirement for them to clean the prison's common areas, in addition to cleaning their personal spaces, which they didn't object to, amounted to unlawful forced labor. Geo is America's largest private prison operator and the biggest jailer of immigrants for ICE. That's Immigration Customs Enforcement. It operates both traditional prisons, which hold people accused or convicted of crimes, and immigrant prisons, holding people not because they are accused of any crime, but because they are waiting for their immigrant cases to be resolved. After President Trump's election, Geo's stock skyrocketed up by 65%. The company is in line for billions of dollars in new contracts as ICE budgets balloons under Trump administration. So here's the thing. So the private prison says immigrant prisons holding people not because they're accused of any crime, but because they are waiting for their immigration cases to be resolved. And what does the 13th Amendment say again? It says neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as punishment for a crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Now, the question is, what crime are we talking about? Is it just something that's considered a misdemeanor? Something that's victimless, right? Or are we talking about something that's felony? Because crossing the border, is there any direct victim? So therefore, it's really an amount to what, a trespassing? Does that warrant slavery? Be very careful with how you reason about this, by the way, because you might find yourself no different than the slaveholders who held my ancestors captive. Be very careful with your reasoning, how you reason this in your hearts and your minds. If you agree with slavery, you're a bad person. I'm just saying it. I'm just, look, this is 10 toes down, full chest. If you feel that slavery is okay in any form, you're a bad person. I am not going to sugarcoat that at all. Go cry to your big bone mama about it. I don't care. Don't even bother emailing me because I won't read it. Because here's the thing. Knowing what my ancestors have went through, why would I be okay for somebody else to go through that? Watch some people coming into the comments and go, oh, well, it's because of this reason and we shouldn't be allowed. It's going to be a deterrent, blah, 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 blah. Watch. I guarantee it. Anyway, let's continue on. It says ICE pays Geo millions of dollars a year to run the Aurora prison, but Geo didn't perform the work itself. It required those detained in his facility to do it. It says the company forced every person detained at Aurora to perform unpaid janitorial work, sending them to the hole, solitary confinement, if they refused. Here is the deal a lot of people don't know. Solitary confinement is considered torture. And it is a crime against humanity. Solitary confinement is torture. Are we okay with that? Are we? I'm not. Have you seen what it does to people? Have you seen what it does to human beings? Let's continue. It says the plaintiffs say that inside the prison, immigrants were well aware of Geo's for-profit status and how they were being used to boost the company's bottom line. With the threat of solitary confinement forever looming, they felt they didn't have much choice but to do free labor. I was scared of going into the hole. Being in detention is already scary, and the hole is so much worse. That's from Olga Alexahina, one of those held in Aurora prison. Another former prisoner, Hugo Hernandez Sarin, said that the people returning from solitary seemed shattered. They were really skinny. They had lost a lot of weight. They wouldn't talk to other people anymore. They seemed afraid. They became antisocial. Here's the thing. Of the crimes that the United States accuses dictators of doing, the United States does. Every accusation is a confession. And so what we see here is that the United States is allowing torture and slavery to continue for a group of people that have come here primarily because of the destabilization of what our nation does. And people will say, well, they're just coming here for economic opportunity. Of course they're coming here for economic opportunity, because look at what our country has done to theirs. Sanctions don't really hurt the people in government. It hurts the workers. So of course they're coming. Of course. It is better to be it's better to be behind the barrel of a gun than to be in front of the barrel of a gun. Of course they're fleeing. You want to know how we get rid of it? How we stop it? Let's end the sanctions. End the blockades. Let's end the imperialism that we're doing. Oh, you would see undocumented immigrants slow to a crawl now. I'm not saying it will completely stop it, but it will definitely drastically change things. I mean, you may have a few, right? But nowhere near to the extent where it is. Because the United States really needs to look inward. And then on top of that, we have these big corporations like Geo Group. that are taking advantage of this. It says, in addition to requiring prisoners to clean common areas for free, the company also employs prisoners, usually for $1 a day, to do a variety of other work in its prisons. Quote, we ran the facility, the landscape, the laundry, the kitchen, we washed the floor. And while these $1-a-day jobs were voluntary, prisoners were not sent to solitary if they refused. The litigants argued they were still coerced into doing the work. The food that Geo provided was inadequate, leaving them chronically hungry, they say, and giving them no choice but to what? Buy more from the commissary. Let me tell you something right now, and let me make this very abundantly clear. All these big corporations are in on it. All of them. Why do you look? If you've ever had a family member in jail or in prison, and you visited, what's in that visiting area? The commissary, right? What kind of things do they have in that commissary? They got honey buns, they got cup of noodles, they got Oreo cookies, they got snacks, they got chips, they got all that stuff. I'm gonna tell you right now, all these big food corporations are making tons of money off of prisons too. And you don't think it's not just detention centers? It's not just the prisons that us citizens are sent to. It's these detention centers that are also money machines for the big corporations. And so they want them to be hungry, because if they're hungry, that means they have to use the commissary. And if they're using the commissary, then that means their products are being sold. And so they're contributing to the problem. This is why capitalism is so dangerous. I've explained it before. As we were talking about last week, right? With the state troopers who confessed, state trooper whistleblowers confessed about having police quotas. Guess what? Baby, this is the money game. It's the money game, and they don't give a damn about your humanity. Cash first, people later. It's cream. Cash rules everything around me. Dollar bills, y'all. That's exactly basically what it is. And so, and to buy food, they needed money. So they worked for whatever Geo would pay them. Right? They're talking about how they were being treated like dirt. It says these $1-a-day work programs are widespread and have subsidized the private prison industry model. So it's with prisoners working for so little, they don't have to hire as many people to staff the facility. Meaning, that's not living wages that are going to American citizens that could be working at these facilities. Look, you just want to get a simple job of being a janitor? Guess what? You're not going to get it at these detention facilities, because guess what? They got slaves to do that instead. They're doing slave labor on top of it all. It gets even worse, because it's not just in prisons, baby. We got to get into this even more. It says now the range of similar lawsuits are pending against Geo and its main competitor in the private prison business, Core Civic. It says in Washington State, immigrants who have worked for $1-a-day in Geo Group facility sued the company for violating the state's minimum wage law. They went to trial and won, with a jury ordering Geo to pay more than $17 million in back pay and court docking the company another $5.9 million in unjust enrichment. An appeals court upheld the judgment, explaining that because of the $1-a-day workers, Geo operated a facility with just a handful of full-time staff hired from the local area, thereby saving millions of dollars it would otherwise have spent on payroll. So, says Geo argues that it should be able to assert immunity right away and get out of the lawsuit at the earliest possible moment. It believes that as long as it properly followed the instructions of the federal government, it cannot be sued for its actions. GEO argument rests on the idea of derivative sovereign immunity. Sovereign immunity is the rule dating back to the British monarchy that the government cannot be sued without its consent. Congress has passed laws that allow for lawsuits against the federal government in some circumstances, but not others. Derivative sovereign immunity is similar. The idea is that if the government was legally entitled to pursue some action without the threat of a lawsuit, that immunity should extend to any outside contractor hired to pursue the same action on the government's behalf. Now, GEO said while the government's sovereign immunity prevents those who disagree with federal immigration policy from suing the government directly, contractors like GEO are regularly subject to suits that drive up their costs. So basically, they want the immunity to save more money so the shareholders can get theirs. Oh my God, they're suing us, so we got to put out more money for lawyers, and so we won't be able to keep that money for ourselves. When? But if y'all didn't use slave labor, then y'all wouldn't have to worry about that now, would you? And now they're crying to the U.S. government because guess what? Most likely, they got people at the top that put money in the pockets of the politicians that say, hey, let's bring this in a little bit because we want to keep more of that money. So we don't even want them the ability to sue us anymore. We want to be able to have full immunity because we were hired by you, so therefore we're an extension of you. So they get to hide behind the skirt of the United States government simply because they got hired by them. The lower court denied the GEO's claim of immunity and the company appealed, but the appellate court decided it was too soon for GEO to raise the immunity issue, saying it would have to wait until the final resolution of the case to appeal. Now the Supreme Court, GEO argues that waiting until then would defeat the point of having immunity in the first place. So, says even the Trump administration has come out against GEO, although in a more limited way. It argues that contractor immunity should be decided by Congress or a special rulemaking body, not a court decision. So you messed up when even the Trump administration is like, you guys take it a little too far. And so for anybody who also looks into what private prisons do, they also contract out prison slave labor to big companies in order to create products. So I know off the top of my head, McDonald's, Wendy's, American Airlines, Victoria's Secret, there's a few others where they actually work either for free or very little. And sometimes they'll do a work release program where they will get paid very little, but then they get taken to restaurants to work in those restaurants. Then they jump back in the van and they take them right back to prison. And so when people go, well, if we get rid of all the illegals, then we'll have jobs. Well, they're going to keep them at these detention facilities. They're going to hold them for a while. And then guess what? Once they hold them for a while, they're going to have them working at these jobs instead. You just won't see them out in the street, but they'll still be working these jobs. And then these jobs won't hire you because they got free labor. And add on top of that, the AI now that's happening, where full automation is happening, where you won't be able to have a job because now we either have automation or we have slave labor. We're going to have one of the two. There's not going to be no workers who earn a living wage and getting their stuff. and being able to have a say over their working conditions freely. No, this is the United States, baby. It's never for the workers. It's always for the people at the top. And so the thing is like, if you really want to stop, let's say you are against undocumented immigrants coming across our border. If you want to stop it, okay, I hear you. Then stress the United States government to end the sanctions, end the blockades, and end the embargoes against all these other countries where people are fleeing from. And also end the drug wars too. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Do all that. And guess what? The amount of people that are coming across the southern border will slow down. Because here's a little secret that a lot of people don't know. People usually don't like to leave the countries where they're from, because if they got it good, they're not going to go nowhere. Okay? If you got it good, why would you leave? Guess what? Let's let them make it good for themselves so they can stay where they're at. Now, here's my thing. I'm far left. I'm far left. I don't even think we should have borders anymore. But my thing is, like, if you feel that we shouldn't have undocumented immigrants, all right, are you for turning off the master valve? Why are we keeping the master valve open and then you're just saying, oh, we need more buckets to get the water out? Stop doing things with a Band-Aid. What in the world's wrong with y'all? Turn off the master valve first. All these big corporate dictators? All right, well, let's start locking them up. Let them clean the mess hall once in a while. Go ahead. Let's let them do it. Let's let the CEO, CFO, and COO of Geo Group and Core Civic, let's let them do the cleaning for a little bit. Right? Let's let all these big corporate overlords, let's let them, let's let them see what it's like to spend a few months or a few years in the cell in an orange jumpsuit and have to work. Let's see how they feel for pushing the government to destabilize these areas. Hell, let's do these to some of these politicians too. Pretty much all of them. But this is the point, right? Because not only, and I said it before, I'll say it again, there are two sets of victims. There's undocumented immigrants that are coming across the border. They're being exploited for their labor and being utilized as slaves. But there's also us, who our wages are being undercut because they're utilizing slaves. And then on top of that, we don't have jobs to be able to fill and be able to pay for our cost of living. And we're being raked through the coals right now as far as the cost of living is concerned. And so this is why people look at me wild for this, but this is why it's important to have solidarity across the board with our fellow workers, especially the ones who are the most victimized and marginalized among us. And that's the one-eyed buck true truth, baby. Because they're coming here for a reason. It's time to fix the underlying cause. Fix it. But that means getting together with our neighbors, building dual power, doing mutual aid, having solidarity with all of our fellow workers so that we can end this system and create something brand new that is for the workers. And then it also means that we get the United States' grubby little ugly diseased hand out of other people's countries and let them thrive instead. And guess what? there'll be a lot better relations between us. And on top of that, you'll be able to control the means of production instead of a small little parasitic group at the top. Go ahead and like the stream. Thank you very much, everybody. Let's get into the comments in the chat, and then we shall move on to the final segment. All right. Let me go into, let me check the kick. Okay, we're good on kicks so far. Let's go and see if we have any Rumble rants. We're good on the Rumble side. All right. Roger says, JB, are you going to cover the link I thought I sent? I didn't realize I didn't send until I saw your show notes where the prisons are suing states for higher vacancies. Yeah, I didn't have time to do both of those because I'm trying to keep my segments to 35 minutes or less. I'm trying to keep it really at 30 minutes. And I'm trying not to go over that. And plus, due to the sake of time, I wasn't able to cover all that. I could probably do that in a separate segment, though. Thank you very much for that, Roger. Jacqueline says, Carl Jha has been excellent on Jamarl Thomas' channel. I've been trying to get in touch with Jamarl Thomas, but I can't. Like, I emailed, and the problem is that he has to follow you back in order to be able to DM him, and he doesn't follow me back. So I've been wanting to get Jamarl Thomas on. He's really good. He's very brilliant when it comes to geopolitics, and I would love to get him on to talk about some of these things, but look, if you guys can clip this and share this with Jamarl Thomas, if you know you got his ear, let him know, hey, our brother's trying to talk to you about geopolitics, you know, and glean, you know, some of his wisdom. So, and I'm gleaning some of his style too. But yeah, I've been trying to get Jamarl Thomas on here. I would like to get him on here as well. I like the way he speaks too. It's very calm. You know, he's like a black Mr. Rogers, almost like a Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood, except for when somebody knocks on the door, he doesn't go, "Who is it?" You see, Creative Experiment says Frontline did a good documentary called Solitary Confinement, showing how solitary confinement drives people insane, cutting themselves. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Solitary confinement is horrible. We should never have done it. Edward says Julian Assange went through hell. He almost lost his mind. Luckily, he finally was set free. Yeah. It's horrible. Colin says F borders and nations. Sensei, giving the love out here. Thank you so very much. Good question, Jacqueline. Are the people moaning about undocumented immigrants taking over jobs, moaning about AI and automation taking over jobs? That's a good question. You see all these big old data centers popping up out of nowhere? And then on top of that, these data centers, they're actually sucking up so much energy that they're causing everybody else's energy bill to go up, skyrocket, right? I talked about that, 1 or 2 weeks ago? Yeah, it's crazy. Zeynab says, exactly, they also make anywhere from $500 to $700 for every person each day that they detain and put into slave labor. These guys are making buku money off of undocumented immigrants. And you know what? It makes it easier for them to do it if you have a contingent of the public that just hates them and doesn't care what happens to them. So then guess what? These same guys, okay, let's stop at the border, but guess what? They're also going to be coming after our asses too. Because if they can't make money off of undocumented immigrants, who are they going to come after? I'm just saying. I'm just saying, we got rid of this entire system. This entire system is sick. Sensei says, welcome to USA, the land of multi-level slave labor. Let's continue on here. Roger says, even though ending sanctions and coups would help, thing is most come here because our dollar is worth more than their currency. Those who flee don't return or retire or go back for a season. They can't because it is because the economic conditions are horrible. They can't. Like, it's nowhere near. And yeah, they're coming here. Part of it is because of the way our country dominates the West. The petrodollar and making it the global reserve currency. He says those who flee because of sanctions are looking for a way to bring their family here as well. I mean, let me be real with you. If I was fleeing, I would try to get my family here too. Like, immigrants love their families too. I mean, they're going to want their family to be safe. I mean, that's just the way it is. You know? I mean, you gotta look at it that way too. Like, wouldn't you want to save your family? I mean, if I was moving, if I was trying to get someplace much more better, of course I'm gonna bring my family with me. I'm not gonna want them to be there to suffer just like that. A lot of people do that, man. Edward says even the government agencies get their furniture from prisoners, making them for slave labor through work programs. The government has a contract with these prisons. Yup. John Ivory says, please hit the thumbs up, people. 24 of us watching. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Oh, well, 32 of y'all now. Thank you so very much. Quintessential says, to what do you attribute how many leftists are falling for Zorhan, even those who had earlier given up on Bernie? That's a very big question, and I don't really have time. Okay, I'll just make it really quick. So many are because as conditions worsen, desperation increases. And so that desperation, a lot of people are doing worse financially than they did when Bernie was running. And so it's like, what choice do we have? Also, there was no third-party choice. There was no left alternative in New York. So therefore, Zorhan was it. And so some on the left, it was either stay home, vote for Mamdani, or vote for Cuomo. And if they stayed home and Cuomo got in, things got worse. If they voted for Mamdani, things wouldn't get worse, but they wouldn't get better. And if they stayed home, they took a risk of either things getting better, either staying the same or getting worse. And I hate to say it, but they basically did the lesser of two evils. Now, here's the thing. Mayors do not have much foreign policy power because they're mayor of a city. So for them, you know, it's really just about what the city does. And Mamdani would be more like a de Blasio at the end of the day. But even on a minute scale, de Blasio was better than Adams because de Blasio actually froze the rent. And so people are looking at it from a self-preservation perspective. They don't want their rent to increase. They don't want people to do worse than before. And things were getting progressively worse. And they would continue to get progressively worse under a Cuomo. So that's why. Now, some, they became stands. I can't speak for them. But a lot of people, it was just really self-preservation. That's the best way I can put it. And the shortest way I can put it. Due to the sake of time. Thank you very much for that question, Doc. All right, guys. So we are getting. He says, I'm driving, getting to a red light, so you misunderstood what I was trying to say. What I'm saying is most come here seeking opportunity, not sanctions, and go back after a season, then retire back to their countries. People fleeing terrible conditions don't do that unless the conditions do improve. That's the only thing. But I mean, if people are doing that just to make a few quick bucks, I mean, the likelihood is they're probably going to be getting in the legal route, because if things aren't that bad for them, then they can afford to wait. But yeah. And we'll do one more. Mouse says by July we'll all be sitting around the fires reminiscing about electricity. Yeah. Yep. And Jacqueline says, please drive safely, Roger. All right. Yeah, we want him to drive safely. And if you stop, and Roger, if you stop at a burger joint, I like my burger all the way, and add a little bit extra cheese for mine too. No pickles, ketchup, and a little bit of mustard. And yeah, a little bit of mayo too. Yeah, I'm one of those people. All right. Thank you. All right, guys, let's get into the final segment. Let's get on this. All right, so of course we talked about the U.S. now about to occupy Gaza. That was a dumpster fire. We're going to be talking about that, and then we also talk about ICE really being slave catchers, modern day slave catchers within this country. But now we're going to be getting into the increasing homelessness within the United States. This story set me off. I'm telling you right now. I cannot stress this enough, that this is dangerous what they are about to do. So let me make sure I have everything ready, because I want to get into this. Oh yeah, I have it up. All right. Okay. And then let me share this. Okay. Sorry, guys. Just trying to make sure I'm all set up and ready to go before I start. All right. We got things going. Okay. All right, so we're going to be discussing the story here about increasing homelessness. 170,000 more homeless. Let's get into this one. You know, guys, that housing is something that's very close to my heart. I know what it's like to be unhoused as a child. I know what it's like to be unhoused as an adult. I know these feelings, right? And it is completely harrowing to have to go through not having a stable place to lay your head. And there is now a story that has come out where now the Trump administration is putting 170,000 people at risk of becoming homeless as we speak. This is a story that I want to bring to you, because this one I want people to prepare for, especially those of us who are lower income, especially those who may be disabled as well. So let's get into this article. This is out of the New York Times. I said the Trump administration expected to drastically cut housing grants. Let's get into this. It says in the blurb, in a major shift, HUD's plan would direct most of its $3.5 billion in homelessness funds away from housing first programs that prioritize work and drug treatment. Let's get into it. All right. It says the Trump administration has developed plans for a wholesale shift in homelessness policy that would slash support for long-term housing programs, according to a confidential grant-making plan. And critics say it could quickly place as many 170,000 formerly homeless people at risk of returning to the streets. Pivoting from housing aid, the administration's approach would shift billions to short-term programs that impose work rules, help the police dismantle encampments, and require the homeless to accept treatment for their mental health or addiction. Here's the crazy part. And I want to say this, make this abundantly clear. Here's a truth that some people may not be willing to accept, but I'm going to say it, and hopefully this will put a seed in your brain. Many people who are homeless become mentally ill after they become homeless. Many people turn to substance abuse after they are homeless. It is not always, oh, well, they became homeless because they were abusing substances. No, sometimes it's the other way around. They fell on hard times and then they became homeless and then they got addicted to substance abuses, some which are uppers or accelerants that keep them awake so they don't fall asleep in the street, because people will do some shady stuff to you while you're in the streets. So yeah, and even then, should that bar somebody from being housed? Do people just not deserve housing just because of a mental issue as addiction? If you feel that people just should not have housing because of an addiction, why don't we take the housing away from a lot of billionaires and people who work in Wall Street, who are literally taking bumps during their office meetings, partaking of the twinkle twinkle? Should you lose your housing because you partake of the Jolly Green Giant a little too often? Should we get rid of people's housing because they drink a little too much alcohol all the time? Because they're constantly drinking alcohol? What about the lady that constantly has to have a glass of wine every single day and she just can't go without it? I mean, should she lose her home? I'm just feeling the comments in the chat coming in. On the comments under this video. I can feel it. I can feel it. So it says the expected shift, which would be the most consequential in a generation, has detailed a 100-page notice from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, slated for release in coming days, that would govern more than $3.5 billion in continuum of care funds, the main source of federal money for homelessness. While President Trump has long pledged to pursue tougher homelessness policies, such as camping bans and treatment mandates, the long-anticipated document reviewed by the New York Times outlines changes that will go much deeper and faster than expected. By cutting aid for permanent housing by 2/3 next year, the plan risks a sudden end of support for the most of the people in the continuum places in such housing nationwide, beginning as soon as January. All are disabled, a condition of the aid, and many are 50 or older. The document does not explain how they will find housing. So, if everybody on this is disabled and many are over the age of 50. Why in the world are we so willing to put them out in the street? Also, it's $3.5 billion in continuum of care aid for these people. How much money do we give as a baseline to Israel? Oh, yeah, as a baseline, as a floor. The United States gives Israel $3.8 billion. Israel literally gets more money than disabled and elderly people who need housing. Tell me again how that's America first. Tell me. And you say, watch the people come in and go, oh my God, but they're lazy. Yet these billionaires sit there collecting their checks, going on yachts. And all they do is they just go to work meetings. They don't really do much. And yet, y'all don't bat an eye when they take a year, 2 years, even 5 years off because they earned it, right? Yet somebody who is suffering from bouts of trauma, has debilitating disabilities, and are subject to constant turmoil just from being on some of the lowest steps on a ladder in our country. Who cares about them? Where's the empathy in that? We give subsidies to these billionaires and nobody bats an eye, but give some Section 8 housing to some people who are down and out and everybody loses their minds. Since these are people who have been living in those units for 5 years, 8 years. Says no one can wrap their head around the idea that HUD is about to kick 170,000 vulnerable people out of their homes. People don't know what's about to hit them. This is in January now, remember. With large cuts in housing aid rumored for months, critics of the administration's approach waged an unsuccessful effort to diminish or delay them. HUD has not made any announcements regarding this program. The department said in an email statement, broadly speaking, HUD will continue to serve the American people through means-tested measures to encourage self-sufficiency. The grant-making criteria will be official when posted on grants.gov, a federal website. So, Devin Kurtz, an analyst with the conservative Zero Institute, a Texas think tank that advises the Trump administration, disputed the idea that funding would lead to mass displacement of formerly homeless people. Existing programs could preserve their funding by adapting to the new rules, he said, adding work requirements, for instance, or treatment mandates. Hang on, let me ask you this. How many of you who aren't disabled are looking for work right now? If you are looking for work right now and you're not disabled, how long have you been looking for work? How many applications have you filled out and put in? Do you think that people who are disabled are going to get hired, especially in the age of automation? And with the story that I just covered about these ICE detention centers using undocumented immigrants as slave labor, do you really think that they're going to hire anybody that is elderly or disabled to do these jobs now? And it's like, oh, well, you guys have to work in order to be able to, you guys have to keep finding jobs in order to be able to use this program. Who's hiring? And then some people who are disabled cannot work at all. So what about them? I'm telling you, man, dystopian as hell. And also treatment mandates, they said. Treatment mandates would be for people who are addicted to certain substances, and it's like, oh, okay, so you have to get treated for this. My thing is like, okay, so why aren't we treating substance abuse as a health issue instead? It says nobody in this administration wants 170,000 people to turn on the street. I can guarantee you, but we have to raise the bar on these service providers. This alarmism is only going to scare the hell out of homeless people. It's not going to scare the hell out of homeless people. It's going to scare the hell out of people who are under threat of being homeless. With homelessness at a high and many people uneasy with public encampments, the funding shift marks the latest in a series of moves by President Trump to seize control of an issue that he is often used to paint his Democratic opponents as weak and permissive. In a sharply worded campaign video in 2023, he characterized the unsheltered homeless as dangerously deranged people destroying urban life, and he pledged to move them from city centers to the treatment camps, an idea that Utah is now pursuing. Says in executive orders issued in July, he demanded increased camping bans and criticized programs that prioritize housing over sobriety mandates or involuntary treatment for mental illness. The grant-making notice would implement that vision by directing federal dollars towards the president's demands. Here's the crazy part. Did you know that being unhoused can actually exacerbate the mental illness of a person? If they are unhoused and if they have a mental illness, it is exacerbated by being homeless. So why are we going to put them at risk for that again? If somebody's unhoused, the likelihood of them going back into relapse and abusing a substance again is going to be higher because now they are in distress. So the key to fixing the trauma is letting them go back into that trauma. Tell me that somebody didn't consult a mental health expert without telling me somebody didn't consult a mental health expert. It's a one size fits all. Oh, look, when all you have is, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So this is what they're doing. It gives priority to programs that require services like substance abuse treatment, impose work rules, and cooperate and assist in the enforcement of camping bans. It also steers funding into areas that pass and enforce these bans, and limited spending on long-term housing to just 30% of the $3.5 billion in aid from about 90% this year. The Trump plan would deal a crippling blow to movements called Housing First, which once enjoyed bipartisan support and has guided federal grant making since at least 2009. Housing First programs provide subsidized apartments without preconditions to the homeless with disabilities, offering but not requiring treatments for mental health or addiction. Supporters say that the program saved lives by getting troubled people off the streets, and that the housing stability prepares them to address other issues. I want to make sure I highlight this right here, because a lot of people seem to get their brains get blank on this particular point. It says supporters say that the program saved lives by getting troubled people off the street, and that the housing stability prepares them to address other issues. Case in point, if you do not have to worry about housing anymore, that means you mental room more bandwidth to address the other issues that being unhoused exacerbated. Because you ain't got to worry about it no more. So guess what? You don't have to use an escape in order to be able to deal with it. Imagine what we could do if we actually had nationalized healthcare system in this country so that people can actually get the mental health treatment that they actually need. Oh my gosh. How would that work? Maybe, just maybe, if people can actually get mental health treatment, and then if substance abuse was treated like the health issue that it actually is, and we made sure that people were housed so that that's one thing that they don't have to worry about, then maybe, just maybe, more of them would recover. And maybe also, maybe this is just a radical in me, but we didn't means test it either. Oh my God. No means testing. No means testing. What does that mean? That means that it is offered to anyone who is experiencing substance abuse or mental health issues, or both. And guess what? If you do that, then they can address those issues and they can recover, and it can be more guaranteed and faster. But this is what happens when you have things that are anti-human, anti-people, anti-society, anti-community. This is what happens when you have policies and politicians and corporations that are anti-human society and community. Let's continue. It says, but the housing is expensive. Whose fault is that? And hard to build amid local resistance, leaving many people waiting on the street. Critics say that free housing provides an incentive for irresponsible behavior. What? An incentive for irresponsible behavior. Housing is a necessity. That being said, for somebody that lives life dangerously, right? There's somebody that lives life dangerously. And then they get harmed and they get brought into the hospital. And then the person says, oh my God, I've seen this person a few times before for different reasons. Are they just going to sit there and let that person die in the hospital? Or are they going to save their life? Come on, think about it. Think about it. If somebody lives a life dangerously, and let's say the nurses and doctors who work at that hospital, that ER, see this person, once again, for, let's say they base jumped and, their parachute didn't deploy properly, or let's say they played chicken on a train before that, and there's some other stuff, and they got, a fractured bone here, and they got contusions there, and they've been seen in the hospital multiple times, and then they come in. Now, are you going to explain to me that, you know what, the hospital staff should just let the person die? Or are they going to treat them? Which one are you going to do? Which one are you going to do? Huh? And so you're saying, okay, this gives an incentive for bad behavior. You know how many people who have done the wrong thing for years and years, but then they finally started to, because they weren't under this pressure, they started to work on themselves. Nothing's forever. Now, if the person dies from an overdose or something like that, then I completely get that. But housing is a necessity for people to have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So therefore, I think it should be guaranteed. And I'm not saying that they deserve some big old mansion, but let's give them a studio with a small little kitchen and a bathroom and a place for them to lay their head with electricity and a Wi-Fi, right? Why aren't we letting that happen? No, they're not going to have the best of the best of the best, but at least they don't have to worry about not having a roof over their head. At least they don't have to worry about not having their own little space where they can have privacy, be to themselves, and not have to worry about their safety being risked. I'd rather that than them live out on the streets and potentially die or become somebody dangerous for somebody else. Am I being too nice? Am I being too compassionate here? My goodness. Says treatment first approach embodied by Mr. Trump's plan pledges swifter action to address what it calls the root causes of homelessness, like drug abuse and mental illnesses. Hang on. The root causes of homelessness isn't necessarily drug abuse or mental illnesses. It is this economic system that exploits the hell out of people so that it causes them to get into these circumstances which they choose under duress to use these substances or mentally for them to break. Or sometimes they may have a mental health issue before that. But how can they get it treated when we have a healthcare system where you got to have the moolah in order to be able to get help? These fools, they don't want to get it. They don't want to get it. That's the problem. It says, but it risks consigning to worse destitution and danger to those who cannot or do not comply. It also does not address another root cause of homelessness: soaring housing costs. The rent is too damn high. So this is one of the biggest issues, is that the rent is too damn high, and people are now getting to the point where they're going to get homeless either way. So guess what? If they get a couple of extra bucks, they get a substance so that they can escape while they're still living out on the street. That's what they're going to do. Because all hope is lost. This is why I do mutual aid. This is why we build dual power. This is why I try to do what I can to not only inform you, but I try to get out there in these streets to be able to help my other fellow human beings. These people who are unhoused, they're my neighbors. I passed one on the way back to my house this morning, sleeping in the grass. I didn't have a thing to give him. Why? I'm going to tell you why. Because once January comes, guess what? It's going to affect people like me. Yes, me. I'm one of the 170,000 victims. Yes, me. Damn it. Just because you see me online, just because you see me on YouTube, you actually think that I got it good? No, I don't. I still get SNAP benefits. So when I talk about this stuff, I'm talking about this stuff from experience. I'm talking about this because I lived this. I lived this. And so when people talk about, oh, well, we just need to take these things away to make them more responsible. Hell, people who got degrees can't even get jobs. They can't. People who have been putting in thousands of applications, who are not disabled at all, can't even find a job. And you think by taking whatever help that we get away is actually just going to make things better? It's going to drive us even further to go back to work? When people who are perfectly able-bodied can't even do the same thing? Oh, you're not thinking deep enough. You're not coming up with great ideas. I shouldn't have to come up with a great idea just to have housing. I shouldn't. You shouldn't either. And I'm going to say this before, and I'm going to say it again. You can cry to your big bone mama about it. I don't care. It is not your fault if you are homeless in this country. It is not. No. No. No, it's not. Trauma is the gateway drug. 10 toes down, full chest. Trauma's the gateway drug. That's what leads to a lot of people to abuse substances. I said what I said. And mental health, you should not have to have good mental health in order to be able to have housing. Because if it's mental health today, it's bodily health tomorrow. So it's like, oh, well, you don't deserve housing because you got diabetes. Oh, you got gout? Oh, yeah, it's out to the streets for you. The hell? That's why I'm so passionate about this. Because I'm literally one of the victims. That if this happens, when this happens, if you don't hear from me anymore, it's because my ass is out on the street. So I don't want to hear nobody say anything to me about being a grifter. I don't want to hear nobody say anything to me about picking yourself up by your bootstraps. You're literally looking at a business owner who owns his own means of production that is trying to make it right now and trying to get a job and got myself a kidney transplant and is trying to get my life better. And at the same time, you want to look at somebody like me and go, oh, well, you're just not trying hard enough. You know what? I would put up my middle finger, but you know what? I don't want to get myself canceled because I know YouTube will say something about it. But I'm doing it right now, but you can't see it. But, however, I am not one of the people who is going to say everything sucks and then that's it and then leave you walking away feeling horrible. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to share some good news with you. There's a bright spot I'm going to share with y'all. Because this story is heartening. And this one gives me hope for the future. Teenagers, I got to give you guys your flowers for this one. Let's go. It says New York lacked an affordable housing portal, so these teenagers made one. Let me make sure I shrink this just a little bit so you guys can see these wonderful young people. These teenagers made an affordable housing portal. It says 2 children of the pandemic did something the grown-ups who run the city have never managed to do. it says when Beckett Zahedi was in 5th grade, he accompanied his recently divorced father and younger sister to a grueling New York City ritual, the hunt for an affordable apartment. On weekends, they trudged through fruitless viewings in Brooklyn, jostling through crowds and sidestepping cockroaches until the elder Zahidi found a place to rent. He said, I wanted to make sure they felt comfortable in the place, and it is just hard to find something. So he had this experience over and over of being rejected. So that's his father. He said, as he got older, Beckett leaned into his entrepreneurial spirit and tech savvy, designing a website where he could sell toys and hawking t-shirts online, but he never forgot how trying those apartments hunts had been, both emotionally and financially. So last year, as his economics class in Brooklyn Friends School studied the national housing crisis, he and a classmate hatched an idea for an online housing platform that could help people find homes they could afford. First, he taught himself to code. I basically spent the first 2 months of summer in my room learning from YouTube and AI. So he basically said that those were his teachers. In July, after countless bleary-eyed hours in bedroom computers, he and Derek Webster Jr., his classmate, launched Wheeler Estate, a website that combines public data with real estate listings, allowing users to search for below-market rent-stabilized apartments, something the grown-ups who run New York City have never managed to do. It's basically the tool that my family needed. So he said, we just see like one good apartment a month and that we can afford. I thought it might be faster instead of wasting more years to just create an algorithm that would do that for me. The site has already attracted more than 27,000 visitors, along with adoration from local officials, including Adrienne Adams, the New York City's council speaker. During the council meeting in October, Ms. Adams said that she was so impressed with Beckett and his commitment to helping fellow New Yorkers secure affordable housing. Says Beckett and Derek aimed at creating a nationwide platform, manually listing properties as far afield as Idaho and Texas. It was way too much for us to handle. He said, so they decided to focus on New York. Said they're children of the pandemic who watched Beckett and his friends develop their digital skills during COVID lockdowns and remote schooling. They were living their real lives in a digital world. So says a tenant can officially find out if their unit is rent stabilized by submitting a request to New York State Homes and Community Renewal. But there's no public database of rent stabilized apartments in the city, only a government website with a PDF list of buildings contain at least one such unit. And those lists may be inaccurate or outdated. The city's affordable housing lottery, New York City Housing Connect, typically receives around 500 applications for each unit listed, according to the city's Department of Housing Preservation and Development. Competition is fierce and waits can take years. Here's the thing, right? Those of us who have used HUD and those of us who have used Section 8 know that the waiting list for these apartments are years long. And yet the Trump administration wants to kick people off of them. Right? Okay. Let's continue on. It says there needs to be more uniform, streamlined way for people to be able to find affordable apartments. So New Yorkers suffer for it. So says at a time when the median rent in the city is about $4,000, finding one of the roughly 1 million rent stabilized apartments often comes down to luck, patience, pluck, and patience. Amateur sleuths will pore over obituaries for clues. Hunters will bribe landlords with key money to obtain a covenant lease. Online, a quest has fueled a cottage industry of tips and advice. So I thought this was just, I thought this was great, because you literally have these kids that have done this. My only issue is an app like this should not be privately funded. It should be purchased and owned only by municipalities, like, for instance, right now it's in New York, so the city of New York should buy it from them. And if they want to copy that in other cities, like, for instance, the city of Orlando, city of Atlanta, city of Charlotte, Austin, Salinas, St. Paul, like, so many cities should actually buy this and use it as their own apparatus for the people. It should not be privately owned. And let's say the city of New York spent, I don't know, $2 million for the app. I think it's reasonable, and especially in a city like New York. $2 million for the app, and then the city just expands the database, and uses it across the city. And then when it goes from New York City, then it goes to Albany. Then it can go from Albany to Buffalo, right? But that's the point. Also, another point that I think is that we shouldn't have to make an app like this in the first place. But yet here we are. So I want to give some good news that there are young people who are doing things like this, who are trying to help out their fellow workers, fellow neighbors, and have hope and continue to work towards that hope by doing what you can for the community around you. There are many of us that may end up suffering even more after January. And so what I want you to do is to do what you can for your fellow neighbors and anticipate things like this happening soon so that you can be there when the government won't. Have solidarity with your fellow neighbors, because until we have a government that has solidarity with us, we have to be the government that we want to see. All right, everybody, thank you so very much for that. Go ahead and give a like to the stream. Appreciate it very much. Let's go into the chat. We're good on Kick. Let's see if we have any Rumble rants. Okay. We are good on the Rumble side. Let's get into the rest of the chat here. All right. Let me see. And my apologies for getting worked up, guys. It's just, it hits. It hits hard. It hits very hard. Let me see this. Kendall's Boat says, JB, you and the RBN fam helped me through my 3 years of homelessness. Finally got Section 8. Now I'm terrified of losing my housing again. I'm disabled, been homeless many times. Listen, Kendall's Boat. On in the description of my videos is my my email. If anything happens, email me and we'll try to do like a crowdfunding for you or something like that. Okay. I'm happy that you're able to be housed, and I'm happy that you got the Section 8, right? Because that takes years to be able to get. But please don't go through this alone. All right. Just let me know. Okay. Okay. Sensei says too many smart, strong, creative, kind humans struggle unnecessarily due to imperialism. Yeah. Zeynab says, Jesus, without HUD, I wouldn't have gotten through college. Right? Wow, man. Wow. John Ivory says there are many people that have jobs but are still homeless. The rent in the USA is too high. Over 40% of people who are homeless have jobs. 40%. And that's just counting, I think, some of the people who are out in the street. You're not talking about the people who live in hotels and motels. You're not talking about the people who are sleeping on people's couches. You're not talking about those people, man. You're not talking about the people who are sleeping in their own cars. There's so many people who are homeless that are still working. And what about them? Like, come on. My God. This system is so sick. Brian says, I encourage all viewers to look up Henry Demas, his opposition to the 1890 Separate Car Act, and Louis H. Marrero taking his seat via White League terror in 1892. Thank you very much for that. Sean says, oh, you mean like Obama bailing out the banks? That kind of rewarding irresponsible behavior? Exactly. Like, there's an article out of Jacobin how it talks about how black wealth actually tanked under Obama. Lady Alex. Oh, good to see you, Lady Alex. I'm a psych RN and have been I have seen multitudes of people with mental health issues that are directly caused by and made worse by poverty. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. My God, it's not that hard to conceive that people's mental health gets worse when they're unhoused. Oh my gosh, thank you so very much for that, by the way. Zeynab says it's a mythology, though. Most people who are unhoused don't struggle with addiction. 25% do, but the rest are just poor. Sorry to repeat, but many, it's because you can't raise a family on a single income. Yes. Lady Alex says, imagine how emotionally healthy we would be if we didn't have to worry about housing, food, and bills. Yes. My goodness, like, oh. Jacqueline says this is blatant democide. They don't even bother with the stealth part anymore. Yeah. Yeah. Fire Ripple says trauma is the gateway drug. Absolutely. One class talking with students, trauma is everywhere and runs deep. Yes. Yeah. It's like, are we? And yeah, are we going to talk about the veterans? The veterans that are homeless too? Are we going to include them in that too? Are we going to talk about the trauma that they had to endure while fighting imperialist projects abroad, on behalf of the big corporations in this country? Like, come on, man. Wesley Donaldson says, I'm in the right chat then. Thank you very much. Good to see you, Wesley. All right. Sean says, they don't even realize that you're human and not a soul and power will want to help us. Affordable housing in Cali ain't a thing. The two-party system rather see us suffer. Now my spouse want to move to Texas. Oh, I don't know about Texas, but look, do what you got to do. Just do what you got to do. But, you know, I'm, you know, my heart's with you. Let me see. Oh, Roger says, bro, you seen these prices? Eat at home is preferable food. Roger, can you get your mom to make me some Big Mac and cheese? See, it would have to be on my cheat meal day. Can't do it right now. But I wouldn't leave your house. We would have to get bunk beds. I'm not leaving your house. What? I got charged $13.50 for collard greens and garlic broccoli. What? These people done lost their doggone mind. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, but I saw that. Roger says decommodify housing today. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Yeah. So, guys, look, just do what you can, man. You know, help other, you know, let's build a symbiotic relationship with our fellow workers, man, with our fellow people. Zoot Silla said, bro, you just came out of the hospital. You want a burger and french fries, and I guess you probably want a cola too. Damn, Skippy, I've been watching my calories, and I've been eating very well for the last few months. So, yeah, give me my treat meal. If they say you are what you eat, then I'm a broccoli floret right now. I'm green, and I'm out here. All right? I'm telling you. Damn right I want a burger and fries. Cheeseburger in paradise. All right, guys, it's time for me to go. Oh, I forgot. I got my announcement. Okay, this is going to end on a great note. All right, guys, I got an announcement for you guys, and I cannot wait to share this. Let me see. Let me bring this up because I really do have an announcement. So I completely forgot. I got an announcement to make. Oh, all right. So, let me make sure I get this up here first. Let me see. All right, and let me do this one. Okay. All right. So I'm so excited. You guys ready for this? This is great. Okay. So one of the things that I've been wanting to do on my channel is I've been wanting to have more conversations with people. And this conversation goes beyond just politics, right? I want to go beyond that because I feel like it is a wonderful way to push for just more understanding of people and different things like that, and an understanding of the world around me. And so I wanted to get into speaking to different people, not just people who I politically agree with, but also people who I would like to really glean more knowledge from. And so I wanted a place that was safe to be curious, a safe place to be curious. So I'm announcing that I have a new channel. So this channel will continue in talking about politics and news and political commentary. Nothing's going to change here. However, a new channel is now going to be up, and I want to introduce you to that channel. It is called the Kind Connections Podcast, a safe place to be curious. So I'm going to be launching this. This channel will begin on Saturday, the 22nd at 11 a.m. So that is when the first episode will premiere. And the first episode, my first guest will be Ron Placone will be joining me. And so he'll be joining me on the Kind Connections podcast. And so I want to share just a little bit of the podcast as well. This is not live yet, but I just want to share just a little bit of some highlights just to get people's appetite wet for when this premieres. And I would like for you all to subscribe as well to this channel, because I'm going to be having great conversations. So let's go ahead and take a look just at this part 2, because I would like to get in and talk about this as well. So I get to learn a lot about Ron Placone. So let's get into this. Other people have an ear for comedy and timing. And so would you say that's more accurate, in regards to how your brain works in that way?
Well, I think they both have a rhythm, right? It's like, an ear for music, an ear for comedy. Like there's a rhythm involved with both. But yeah, I'd say so. I mean, I grew up, my family definitely does have a sense of humor, and then I'd always be the person that like took it too far on accident. But yeah, I mean, there's always kind of been that thing, and I grew up, when I look back on it, it's like the era in which we grew up. I mean, you and I are around the same age. There was some really brilliant comedy around then, and it was just stuff that you watch because this was before the internet, so we were all just watching the same stuff on TV. And I remember it was pretty cool for me. One of the things I did when they made the new seasons was I rewatched all the 90s Frasier stuff. And I watched that. I mean, I grew up watching that stuff. And at the time, there was a lot of stuff that went over my head because I was young. But I could obviously get the basics of the story, But now revisiting it as an adult, like I'm realizing just how tight the writing was. I'm noticing the formulas that the writers employed that made perfect sense for a comedy like that, which like multicam comedies like that aren't made often anymore. I actually think they should be. I think we should go, a lot of the sound stages are not being used in LA right now. I think they should start making that. I love single cam stuff too. But I think they should go back to making that kind of stuff because it's just a really fun way to do storytelling. And there was some brilliant shit that happened. So, but anyway, I've revisited, some of that stuff. And so I'm sure that when you grow up with that stuff, like some of it's going to kind of seep in there and it might make you want to do it someday or something. So,
yeah. It makes me wonder about, like, for instance, you came out with a movie called Left at Wall. and there was some parts that made me really like laugh out loud. And I'm curious as to like, was there any like improv involved in the process in making that movie, or was it like stick to the script? It's like, don't deviate from the script because I have this just the way I want it. How did that go?
Oh, it depended on the actor in the scene. I mean, there were some people at Left at Wall that had a theater background, so they were very much like stick to the script.
I'm a writer. My brother Don is on Wall Street. They basically created a casino out of our economy.
No, we're short selling the stock, which is financial jargon for you probably wouldn't understand.
You know, I bet I would.
It's just you guys are so hard on each other.
What the hell do you mean you don't know how to make an old fashioned? How about this? Let me behind the bar. I'll make the old fashioned myself.
Give me a break, pal. Does this place look like we make old fashions?
I just can't do this anymore. I think we need a break.
What?
So there I was. No girlfriend, no work, no agent. Was this rock bottom? And that's when I got an idea.
Dude, game bites. We all need to buy shares of it.
I lost a lot because of these idiot hackers.
Well, they're not hackers, but this isn't about you, Don. This is bigger. This is about sticking up to this corrupt system and actually fighting back.
There were also a lot of comedians in Left at Wall. So
yeah, I noticed.
There was definitely some, and Gareth Reynolds in particular, who plays Don, you know, the main character's brother. The main character is John. I play John. You know, he's one of the most brilliant improvisers I know. So yeah, he definitely riffed on the script some, and a lot of that made the final cut.
So that's basically just a quick sneak preview of the new podcast. I already have other interviews that are already lined up and already done. So I guess, guys, I cannot wait to launch this podcast. It is going to be premiering on Saturday, November 22nd at 11 a.m. And of course, keep an eye on my Substack for when I finally announce the launch. It will be launched. I'm wondering if I should just do a premiere or just post it and just let it go live. But I might just do a actual premiere. But this is going to be a great one. So I cannot wait to start this. And this is going to be a completely new channel. It's not going to be on this channel. So it's going to be a completely new channel. And so I cannot wait for you guys to see that. And so I will be introducing that as well. And so, of course, I am so grateful for you guys sticking with me as I continue my journey to be able to just learn more about the people around me. I'm going to be talking about ranging from subjects to culture, art, religion, science, pop culture, people who are, filmmakers and journalists, and I'll be talking to doctors, and I'll be talking to people about travel. There's going to be so many different things I'll be talking to people about because I want to learn more about the world around me. I want to learn more from people. So I'm going to be doing that. And so I am so excited for that. So I hope you guys like it. It's very exciting. And yeah, so thank you very much for that. And thank you very much for staying for that portion, for that special announcement, guys. I will see you guys. Also, I will be doing press on Thursday. So there won't be a Savvy and JB show, but I will be doing press this Thursday. I'll be attending a film by a Palestinian director, and I'll be there to cover that this Thursday. So that's going to be a very riveting thing to experience, to be able to talk to the director about his filming as well. So I cannot wait for that. So guys, stay tuned for that as well. Guys, I'm on my way out. I want you guys to take care. And yeah, like I always said, water your plants, water yourselves, leave the world better than you found it. Do all the things if you got them. And if you ain't got them, then watch something funny, because joy is revolutionary. Read, because reading is fundamental. Be kind and connect with everyone if you can. And guys, I love you for being you. Mwah! Forehead kisses. Take care. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for watching. And I appreciate it from the top and bottom of my heart. If you'd like to see any more, you can look here. Mwah! Forehead kisses.